I enjoy this idea of poet. Like if I have a thought, it's a kind of continuation of the poem inside of my head. So like I just like I'm like an environment where appears the poem word by word during my day. Right? So this is like actually, I have a question. Okay, I'm a poet. Okay, the life is the poetry, and I try to find a way how it could exist. What I can open this space. I'm a poet, whatever. And then I enjoy this idea, like we live in a capitalistic environment, like this one. So like
like
in a huge capitalistic poem. So like we're inside of the huge capitalistic poem, yeah, and we make fun of this poem. So like it's part of this poem.
You can go in between.
Yeah.
In between the lines of this capitalistic poem.
Actually, for me, I think it's very rich topic about this life as a poet, and I'm a poet. Like, so I can convert, like I can reopen my life if I realized everything what I know, it's a kind of poetry. I know I have a name, it's poetry. That I have a story, it's kind of poetry. That everything what I know from where I go, it's kind of still just words. It can be poetry really. So like I can arrive to this topic. I'm a poet just from noticing language, because language is a poetry, like you say. So it's very strong because maybe before I didn't know. Maybe I know it's very static. I mean, I think okay, poetry is just somewhere, but there is very real things, very stable things, like I am, like my story, like what I'm doing and like how I understand the reality. Like it's very stable. But poetry is something, I don't know, and Friday someone speak about poetry, but it's not part of it. So in this case, it's such a beautiful journey can be open. So like, okay, so everything what I know it, I create. Like, I recognize the reality. So it's I'm inside of the poem all the time, and I have paradoxal poem inside of me. So I have different spaces. I am like environment, have a different maybe splitting rooms or something. So when I travel, I try to find answer, what is it, but if I am this poetry, I am not a poem, I am a poetry, this is how I can find the answer. So I can enjoy the way of how poetry just continue
unfolds
own way, like meaningless, like this. So I just try to realize how it is, and I find it very rich, very rich space for me for meanings. I enjoy.
For me, there are very many things which I like from what you said, and I find it difficult to choose one to talk about. So, like, I was kind of ready to jump from my seat many times to be like, oh, I want to say something now. And so one thing that I really like is this idea of the secret, of secrets in general, and what you said, like negative ontology. So to give yourself, to give a person the possibility of being something that they haven't been or they haven't considered being. And for me, this is something very precious that we need very much to have mystery again. So to have something that we don't know, something that we don't possess, something that we cannot understand, or something we just go around, we circle around. And I very much associate this with how you were saying it as well, with capitalism. So capitalism takes everything and makes it into a product, into an object. So it cannot be mysterious anymore. And specifically so with, for example, movements of resistance. So something that starts in an underground, so it's first hidden, is not seen, it's mysterious, and is meant to be some kind of resistance or opposition to something else. And then gradually, as it emerges, this poem, this capitalist poem that we're in, is able, in a way that I still haven't understood for myself, is able to grab it and to make it into a product to sell. And of course this happened with the avant-gardes. Everything was taken, what was, I don't know if I can give just the example of the Impressionists or the Faust. First they were, who are those idiots, and then we sell them for millions and millions of dollars and so on. So that's very interesting, and this idea of negative ontology and capitalism, trying to get to the heart of this. And I don't know, for me it's an irony and a paradox that is trying to do this through something that we are told that is very concrete, which is money, but which is actually, I think, one of the most mysterious objects of our society. Because some people make it through by typing some numbers in their computers in some banks all over the world. So I don't really know how to, how to negotiate. It's like they take what is human and is mysterious, and as in they, of course, I'm not making some opposite, but capitalism, we take something that is human and mysterious and alive, and we solidify it and we put it on the market, but it's through the means of this thing which is actually very liquid, about which we're told that it's very concrete, and we work for it like 40 hours, 20 hours, 5 hours a week, but it's actually a very, very mysterious object.
But that's the funny, sorry that I interrupted, that's the funny part, that it has both, that it has this very, you take the subculture from the underground and drag it out and put a price tag on and sell it, but then also it can take something as profane as a piece of paper or some sugary drink and make it very mysterious, with advertising. So it has kind of both sides. It's not just, I don't know, for me, I almost wanted to say, actually it's the modernism that takes away the secrets, and the capitalism which kind of puts the secrets kind of artificially back into the modernism to inflate it, to make it digestible.
I feel like capitalism is taking our interiority, our intimacy actually with ourselves and with others, and sells it back to us as if it's a secret to ourselves. And it is, but it's not to be sold. I mean, it's, I don't know, it's just crazy.
It goes to the abstract more and more.
And I stand very much for the possibility of mystery, not to call it, I don't know, you can call it, you said apophatic, so something that, you go by the way of darkness, you go, and by this I don't mean something occult, but you go by the way of not knowing, of darkness, rather than someone or a system continuously telling us what we are, what we're supposed to do, where we're heading, what our goals are, all this kind of culture of personal development, which has its advantages, but also its very dark side. So I like that you bring this into your lecture as well. And there's something else that maybe other people want to say. Something else about the icons, which I like very, very much. Talk about icons.
Intimacy, very nice, this word.
So for me, what Sasha said kind of really tied some things together that I kind of got from the lecture. Is this idea that I am the poet and I am the poetry and my life is the poetry and I'm part of the poem. And it kind of reminded me of something that I thought about yesterday quite a lot, which is this idea of seriousness and how things become serious when you do them for a while through the repetition. Something that is playful. For example, I move through Bucharest with roller skates, and it doesn't make any sense. There's holes everywhere. It's dangerous. There's cars parking. There's no space. What are you doing? Falling on the ground. But it's like really fun also. But at the same time, like sometimes I just want to get somewhere, and I'm there with my roller skates. I can't go on the bus. Everybody, the supermarkets, they kind of stay, Novetsvoy and all that. And then kind of it's really helpful to remind myself like about that it's a poetic act. This thing, that it's actually not serious, and that I could just sit down and wait a bit, and that's actually not doing anything anyway. So it's like a helpful thing to kind of cope with the terror of it all.
Terror.
With the prose of life, there is a poetry of prose.
The prose of Bucharest streets. And there was another thing that I really liked about this thing of taking out of the context and taking away the core of the artwork. So there's this place at Piazza Victoria. It's a kind of like a block of concrete with some cables coming out. I don't know, they wanted to make something and then they forgot it, and then some people put some trash inside. These kind of sculptures of everyday life. And on it someone wrote Monument of Corruption. And I actually really, really like it because it's so real and it's so in the making, and people are adding to it, and it's kind of crumbling and being, and when something falls down, someone pushes a Coca-Cola bottle inside and right next to the parliament, and the cars going by, and it's so good. And then to think like, what would happen if you like, oh no, nobody touched the Coke bottle, like, and then you take it and transplant it into some white cube. What would happen to it?
I think in this case it will lose a bit poetry, because you're the one who noticed it, you're the one to whom it was addressed, the one who was reading corruption, Monument of Corruption. So it was supposed to be on the street to make fun, but if you put it in it will be too... I think Jeff Koons with his shark already made it. Jeff Koons making this kind of absurd, in my taste, things like... it's like an obvious sculpture, and you put it and it becomes even more obvious. So it kind of loses a bit poetry and becomes more capitalistic. But in how I see it, I think it's a place for this, like it's a street poet who made it. Like it's supposed to be for everyone. And this sculptures of everyday life.
But I like what you said, like if someone goes and if they decide to put it in a museum, you're not allowed to touch that same Coca-Cola bottle which maybe you put in. And actually, like, this takes me to what you were saying about icons. So, I mean, I don't know, because he's a priest and he comes from this kind of dimension. I guess in the Orthodox Church there's this thing that you can actually go and kiss the icon as you'd kiss
That's
a person.
what he also says further.
Yeah, and that this would be hooliganism in a museum, and there's people who want to do that and cuddle the artworks, and I don't know, I feel it's I love that this is still possible in a space that, as you said, is like a free space, or a space that frees up, or to go and kiss something which is not which is an art object, or it's also a cult object, and there is still this idea that, okay, we have to take care of those objects, but we can just be really intimate with it, and there's just something very powerful about this, that you can kiss an object. For me, at least, as an idea, we don't do this. We don't kiss a bus or the painting or the chair or
maybe pillow sometimes.
Yeah.
Door, sometimes door.
The door. Yeah.
And also this idea that in the church is like a performance, but also reversed, like the performance being a ritual. For me, it's many times like this. Like, what am I doing here? I repeat something. It's like sometimes it's so weird. Like we were talking the other day, we tell the people to come, and we tell them to wait at the door until we tell them to come in, and we are ready to start doing something, and we do it like, it's many times. I wonder if some kind of ritual of our trauma, maybe.
Repetition. Yes.
And in a way, the repetition is the only thing that keeps the space going. Because if you don't come to this room for 10 years, it won't be a theater anymore. It just stopped being what it is. And the same thing, I feel somehow, with any place, if you want to destroy it, just don't go there anymore. Don't do it anymore. And I think, in some way, that's also the case with the space of capitalism. We're going there. We don't need to go there. We can go to nature and eat a potato.
Or we can go into capitalism, but we can kind of acid out it from inside by the presence. But it's capitalism is also as natural as nature is. So the thing is, as I've said in the beginning, what's for me kind of an escape mechanism is this language, and by clearing out through language, we kind of influence things. And it's not about to get rid of capitalism, because, as I said, it just eats everything. If you get rid of it, it eats what that you're trying to get rid of it. It's like, yeah. And for me, I was talking actually with Miranda before, this kind of intimate space, which I would call it, or hidden space, or spiritual space, or poetic space, or dark space, or empty space, or whatever space, kind of, if we forget about it, then we're stuck in too much in the material realm, and we forget the source, and we kind of becoming deprived from water and from space, because actually that space feeds this space, material space. So the more we become meaningless and poetic, the more we kind of open ourselves and the environment to the source, and this kind of reconstruct the reality. This kind of, as I said, from Zen practices about love as like a non-action, yes? Unconditional action. Unconditional action is the heart of matter. When you do something without reason, when you're not doing something to receive something. Unconditional. And this unconditional coming from this realm of the heart, and which is we consider non-physical realm, but actually it's physical because it influences physical. And when you influence physical, when you share your unconditional action, it comes back to you. So it's kind of this machine, capitalistic machine, we should switch on capitalistic machine of unconditional action. Yeah, and that's how it changes. You can't change capitalism through the capitalistic mechanism. It's kind of, you need to require different understanding, and to require different understanding, there should happen the shift of identity. And the shift of identity happens because the bliss happens to you, or
Because what happens to you?
I don't know, grace, bliss can happen to you, and the shift of identity happens. And or by meeting with poetry, this shift of identity happens. So, and meeting with poetry is possible if someone talks about this space, or you meet someone who has this space inside him. When you meet a person who accumulated enough of empty space in him, he can share it with you, and then you can start growing your own empty space. And this how this kind of film of illusion starts to get eaten out. You know, when you see the movie and the fire eats out the film and the white spaces, and the film just gets eaten by these old machines. In the old cinema, they put this bobbins with film, but if it becomes too hot, the fire starts and the film gets eaten, and the white space occurs from that space. So, yeah, this kind of visual metaphor for this. And that's why people are going for searching for that, people that have a lot of this space. And I don't know, shamans have this space, Sufis have this space, dervishes have this space, maybe some priests have this space, or some kind of spaces like churches sometimes have this space. Or maybe you don't have to go anywhere and this space is already in you if you notice it. But for this, maybe you need to go in between or to compress yourself in some kind of, from the outer landscape. So
I have a question. How do you do that?
Huh?
I mean, this is a wonderful thing you were talking about. Compress yourself or create space inside or create quietness or emptiness inside. But do you have any practice for doing that? How do you do that?
Like that. I think anyone can find something different for himself. But anyway, for me it's connected with attention. So where you put attention, there it grows. So if you're not familiar with your body, for example, yes, you can go to the bodily practices, and it could be anything. It could be dancing. It could be rolling on the floor. So it's kind of reinventing what you already have, trying to feel again. Because for me it was like that. I was too much in the... And now I'm a mental being very much. Like I understand this, and this is my feature. I'm mental. But for me to become more mental, I need to become more into my body. Because tree does not grow from the surface. It needs roots to go into the soil so it can get higher. So the same is with attention. The more you go into your body with your attention, the more you can go outside. You can't go outside for long without going into the body. So for everyone it's different. Some person maybe are very bodily, like we all are different. We accumulate different spaces. Some are kind of accumulate emotional realm, some mental realm, some bodily realm. But anyway, body is, for me, is this point of where it all meet. So there are many practices like yoga or dance or whatever. But the thing is that if you go into the form, it's not everyone that teaches that form that you won't find anything in the form, actually. So there is also not all yoga teachers says the meaning of what is yoga actually. And yoga is not only about body, yes, or mainly not. So, but to realign your body, you need to do something physical. And for this, you actually don't need special practice. You can do your home duty and you just notice what you're doing. So this is kind of, for me, this compression is about putting attention back to your action. And for this, you don't need anything special. You can do your everyday life. So I think it's as simple as that. And then you kind of become sensitive, and then you can feel what you need. Maybe you want to dance, or maybe you want to do yoga, or maybe you need to go to the box. It's something like that, no? I don't know.
What about this? It was funny for me when you said to think into the skull. It's like, oh, this is a good meditation practice, because many people try to not think, but maybe you should try to think in your skull. And maybe something stops.
Yeah, this is kind of one of the things. To go into your body and to map your body really, because when we are mental, we are not thinking in our head, we are thinking with all our body. So when I try to think in my head, it's almost impossible because I think my thoughts are around me like a cloud. So to put it back is kind of really shows me what is my reality. Like what is actually my reality. It's not this, it's actually...
So in the beginning you used the metaphor of being animalistic. So is it the same as being real, or getting back to the deep roots of our reality? You see them both as
I think
equivalent somehow?
it's shift of identity. I don't know, in Bhutto there is Japanese dance Bhutto when you try to be anything, like you can be animal, flower, a stone. So this kind of animalistic approach just shifts your perspective of understanding what is human, because we operate as humans, but actually maybe we are not. Who knows what we are? Human is just a word. So kind of remap concepts.
Human, this is an old poem.
Human is an old poem, yeah.
Old poem. Very famous. So, and I repeat the belief, like it's stable. So it's already started to be very practical if I not try to do some extra, but just to check what exactly is stable, like what, how I know, and I check my poetry space, like just what around.
Read your own poetry.
It's like also if you easily to feel human when you are around humans, but when you are alone in some forest in a silent space and room and you don't move, what you become, like, and you don't see your body. Or there are these capsules with salt water where you lie and you don't feel the weight of your body. And there is like a psychedelic experience in that, because you don't understand who you are anymore, because everything disappears, your body disappears. So this is, I think, perception, and perception is very much about attention, so they're kind of flowing. But I'm not an expert in that, I'm really not so good with my body. It's just about some maybe experience with attention. And dance very much changes it. And I think the Sufis and dervishes have a very nice spinning. They spin, very simple practice. They spin, and then you can try this and see what happens with you.
Do you think that children are more naturally inclined to know how those things work? Like in, I don't know, child age, where we're more in tune with our bodies, or we're
I think they're in the space of not knowing, which is precious, but it's not that they are aware. That's why we grow to become children again, because, like this quote from the Bible, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven if you're not a child, and only children. And this means that you're in a state of not knowing who you are and what is around. And in this state of not knowing, you can actually maybe, I don't know, something happens. Access some. But you don't have a reason to access anything because you don't have a goal to access. Because if you have a goal to do something, then you're not a child.
Yeah.
So it's you can't trick this one. You can't fool. He also talked about this quote of become a child. And actually, to become a child, this theater is actually some theater provides the space. Or, for example, puppetry. Puppet can tell you really a lot of wisdom, which you would not hear if some person would tell you. I will tell you some wise words, you will okay, blah, blah, blah. But if the puppet will tell you some wise words, they could really enter you. So this kind of play and of shifting, you have the stable poetry and you shift the stability through the play, through the game, through puppets, through theatrical space. And actually what it is, because this space is not different from that space, but it's different. And the difference is only in how you frame it. So if you want to shift something, first you need to frame. So to be free, you need to have limitation. So this is kind of playing with limitation. I limit the space and it becomes a theater because I put some material and I've built the wall. This is a limitation, and actually things can happen in this limitation. You can free yourself from the rural perception through this perception of stable poetry. You can shift it and then something new appears. So as I'm saying this thing about difference, I think what Derrida meant is that there is always the old poetry appears. So there is this constant process of differentiate the reality to renew the stability through unknowing, to kill known with unknown, so the known can appear, because without knowing we also cannot exist, because this is our nature. But if we're stuck in one, it becomes stagnant. We lose the space of the source, of childness, of water for us to renew. And then it becomes like a prose way of living your life, which actually could be full of play or game. It's just a matter of how you perceive, of how you frame, and how you limit yourself, or how you differentiate, or how you agree to play, or how you agree to use concepts of reality. Maybe you play with it, but it's a whole story of I don't know, biblical story. But for me, this art and performance is about space. It gives you space or it takes your space. And I want art that gives space. Because a lot of art just takes it even more, it occupies it. So you occupy space or you free space. And what you need to do to free space? Or do you notice that you occupy space? Because if you occupy, you make it stagnant. But if you free space, then you allow things to happen.